Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City West Bend Plan Commission meeting for January 4th. Note that we do have a quorum with Commissioner Gannon absent and excused. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have 4 items on our agenda. The first being approval of minutes, the Plan Commission regular meeting minutes for December 7th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motion second. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And we'll move to development proposals. A, conditional use permits. And to clarify, we're going to talk about all of these things at the same time, correct, Jim? So I'll read through this long list, so just give me some time, and then we'll kick it over to Jim for a presentation. So first is Conditional Use Permit One, which is CU-21-009, conditional use permit to allow the following activities: grading, construction of the Riverwalk, including retaining walls, landscaping, Riverwalk amenities, riverbank alteration and stabilization, the relocation of existing and new underground utilities, redecking of the existing pedestrian bridge and construction of an accessible ramp located north of the Washington Street Bridge between the Riverwalk and the island west of the dam, and redecking of the existing pedestrian bridge located approximately 315 feet north of Veterans Avenue Bridge within the floodway and floodplain fringe overlay districts. Along on the west side of the Milwaukee Riverbank from River Shores Drive south to West Water Street by the West Bend Park, Recreation, and Forestry Department. The applicant is them, and the agent is the same. We will also be discussing B, site plans. 1, SP-20-010, site plan for Riverwalk improvements on the west side of the Milwaukee River, Phase 2 and 3, located south of West Washington Street, between West Water Street and West Washington Street by the West Bend Park, Rec, and Forestry Department. The applicant are them. The agent is the same. And 2, SP-21-026, site plan for Riverwalk improvements on the west side of the Milwaukee River, Phase 4, located north of West Washington Street, between West Washington Street to River Shores Drive by the West Bend Park, Rec, Forestry Department. Applicant and agent are the same. Jim.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to brief you on the entire Riverwalk project for both the conditional uses and for phases 2 and 3 and phase 4. So Park Recreation and Forestry has submitted an application for the conditional use permit and the site plans for the Riverwalk revitalization. The revitalization extends along the west riverbank of the Milwaukee River and the adjacent properties along the bank from West Water Street to West Washington Street for phase 2. As a part of the conditional use, the west side of the Riverwalk extending from West Washington Street to River Shores Drive has also been included. This would be phase 4 with the request for the conditional use permit. The phases for the riverbank stabilization and the Riverwalk improvements for phase 4 are associated with the HKS redevelopment project. The conditional use permit is required for any work within the proposed floodway and floodplain districts. The activities would include the existing Riverwalk would be removed and replaced with a concrete window pane type surface feature. The existing parking lots just south of the West Washington Street would be reconstructed. The riverbanks would be reconstructed using modular block retaining walls and landscaping. The Riverwalk is also proposed to extend to the north under West Washington Street Bridge to provide connectivity through the city lands to the lands to the north. Some of the existing and public and private utilities will be modified and relocated as part of the Riverwalk improvements. A conditional letter of map revision is being submitted to the Federal Emergency Management Agency for approval as part of the project. The project has also had a hydraulic analysis completed from the dam south to Water Street, and that hydraulic analysis has indicated that the proposed improvements will not increase the flood elevations and does not cause any adverse impact. Staff would recommend approval of that conditional use permit with the listed conditions. The site plans just include the renovations of the walkway, and it also includes the renovation of the covered walkway between the theater and the Hussar buildings. They have a concept that provides the look of those renovations for the ends of that walkway. As part of the Phase 4, which is north of Washington Street, where the HKS development is being developed, the plans include removing the existing walkway and replacing it with a concrete window-paned walkway there. The stabilization of the banks along that would consist of riprap and landscaping. There's a open space area north of the dam that would be improved by replacing the retaining walls and steps and ramps. Stepped access or canoe launch is also proposed on the northeast, just northeast of the We Energy substation. All of the improvements for Phase 4 do not alter the floodplain elevations and do not require a floodplain analysis. The conditional use would cover just the and authorize the work being done within the floodland areas. Staff also would recommend approval of both the site plans with the listed conditions.
Great summary, Jim. So now I'll open up to the commission if anybody has any questions, thoughts, ideas.
I
Yes, sir.
just have a question. We talked about this a little bit at the council meeting last night. I don't think, I meant to ask you, Jay, and maybe somebody up here knows, what is the potential for the grants that we've written? What is the upside on that?
I think that's a tough question to answer, but
I mean,
Who's gonna take it?
because they must have a range or something, don't they? Or
That is a tough question to answer. The potential is hopeful from city staff perspective.
is millions or hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands or
So we, as far as how much is available,
how much do?
one of the grants had 10 million available. One of the grants had
Okay, so it could be
200
really
available.
significant. Yeah.
And we heard from the state that they were double and triple over subscribed. So they're competitive.
Okay.
We're not like a shoe-in to get it. I don't want to give anybody that impression. It would be awesome if we received one, but the competition's fierce, and
Okay.
we put our best foot forward. I can assure you of that.
I'm sure, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
anybody else?
Question?
Go ahead.
I'm wondering on the walkway under Washington, is there lighting, and would there be a need for lighting?
I'll let Cindy answer the specifics for that.
Yes, the answer is yes. We have planned for a strip of low-voltage lighting where the abutment meets the bottom of the bridge along that whole stretch, so that it will be lighted. We can't put anything below that because it's going to be underwater too much of the time, and we can't put railings under there because then our floodplain modeling won't work. So that's what we've got planned for under there.
I have a follow-up on that, too. I'm sure you're aware, we just got dam lights installed up in Barton, and I know Mike, I had talked to Mike Yentz at some point, and I believe I read somewhere in the paperwork that that's a potential with downtown. Is that still on?
Yeah, we talked to Steiner Electric, and they came up with a plan for lighting the dam north of Highway 33 from the north side of Highway 33.
Sure.
That's going to be an alternate bid for this project.
Okay.
So we don't know if we're going to be able to afford it or not.
Okay.
But yeah, we've got that in there with
Cool.
the specs to do that.
Good. Awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I got
Yep.
Redecking, the pedestrian bridges, those are the two new ones?
No, there's a bridge that goes across to that island that's west of the dam. That one's got wood decking. That one's going to get redecked with wood. The south pedestrian bridge that we just put in with the east side of the Riverwalk, that one got decked with wood decking because the contractor advised us to do that, because in order to construct the west side, we need to pull that bridge up so they can operate equipment on the bed of the river to do that construction. Then they'll put it back in and deck it with concrete, which was the original plan for that bridge.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, I have one,
Yep.
I have one more. It's just because we talked
This
about
is
it
your
last
last
night.
one, okay?
I know, it's just been kind of brewing a little bit. Can you describe somebody a little better what that taking over the riverbed
Sure.
for construction looks like? I couldn't get a visual on that last night when we were talking about it.
There's maybe 15, 20 feet at the most of space on the top of the bank on the west side of the river.
Right, yeah.
Which, think about what happened on the east side, there's no way we're going to be able to
Yeah, I get why
construct.
they're doing that, yeah.
So we actually talked to Yankee Construction, trying to pick their brain about possibilities for how to do the west side. And that was one of the suggestions, is to put sheet piling out about 20 feet off the bank on the west side of the river, north of where the existing retaining wall stretches, from the Mower Bridge south. That wall is not going to get taken out all the way. So from that point south, they'll put sheet piling in the river, de-water behind it, put a layer of fabric on the riverbed, and then a couple feet of gravel between the bank and that sheet piling, and then do construction from there.
Okay, so the river, the river itself is just gonna kind of get pushed over?
Yep.
Okay, all right, that's
And then
that's
it'll-
sort of what I thought, I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's why we need to get the bridge out of there, because they can't operate equipment in the
Sure.
river under that bridge.
Okay.
So,
All right, cool, thank you, Cindy.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Justice? No?
I think that's all I got. Thank
Okay.
you.
So we're going to take this with a few different steps. First, we're on A, our conditional use permit. I was told that a public hearing was posted. It just isn't part of our agenda. So we'll start with a public hearing and open that up. So if anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, feel free to come on up.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motion second to end the public hearing. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry.
I've got to ask a question. How can it be a public hearing if it's not on the agenda?
I don't know. I asked that too.
Conditional uses are, by definition, under our code, a public hearing.
But
And it
I'm
was
talking about the
posted.
open meetings law.
It was posted and published as a public hearing.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sounds great.
I just don't want to get a civil judgment coming at me from
Yeah.
the state or something.
That's the first thing I asked too. All right, then we're looking for approval of the conditional use permit.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motioned, seconded by everybody. Any comments or questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Then we're on to our site plan BU1. We're looking for approval for that.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Montal Dolnick. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then site plan number 2. We're looking for approval.
Motion approved. Second.
Thank you. It's been motion second. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. And we're on to 3, SP-20-016, site plan for privacy fencing at West Bend Dairy Queen at 1043 South Main Street by Kevin Scheineman. The applicant is Dairy Queen and Kevin. The agent is Justin Weniger of A to Z Quality Fencing. Just to give some background, I know that a couple of the residents who are here in the audience had contacted myself and Alderman Berquist regards to just wanting more privacy in their backyard in regards to how Dairy Queen's back property along with the drive-through is slopes. We kind of toyed with a few different options, decided that a fence was the way to go for some sort of privacy screening. They explored what different types of fence options they would like. The type of fence that they're asking for required to come to commission, and that is why it's before us. And I'll let Jim give even more detail. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the site plan proposals for a privacy fence located along the east side of the Dairy Queen site. The fence is proposed to stretch approximately 150 feet north and south along that east portion of the lot. The fence proposed is proposed to be a 6-foot tall vinyl coated chain link with a 4-foot wide vinyl coated fabric being proposed to be attached to the upper portion of the fence. The plan has a note also of black privacy slats being installed throughout. Again, the plans were slightly unclear on if the privacy slats will run the entire height of the fence or only at the same height as the vinyl coated fabric. The exact fence location is not being provided in relation to the improvements on the site, to the property line, or to the parking lot area. And it's unclear if there will be conflicts with the existing sanitary sewer, landscaping, and stormwater features on the site. Staff isn't opposed to the additional privacy screening, but the type of screening that was being proposed is not consistent with the city's urban design standards or with the previous plan commission approvals. The developer is requesting the commission to review the request and is asking for a design exception for the fencing materials. Approval of any fencing should require an accurate depiction of the location so it can be evaluated for conflicts with the previously approved utilities, landscaping, and the site grades.
Sounds great. First off, I'll just acknowledge I wish Mr. Scheineman was here. He did know about the meeting, and I was going to look for more information from him. But instead, we'll kick it over to the commission first for any questions or thoughts. So, Commissioner Dolnick.
I don't have a problem giving them an exception, but I think, in my personal opinion, we'd be negligent to give them an exception based on this site plan. There isn't enough information here on what it's going to look like, what's it made out of, where is it going to go, as the memo indicates, and these are issues that shouldn't be left to city staff, not when there's an exception involved, and not when there's potential conflicts with everything, with the utilities and the grades. This is just not a very good site plan.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Yes, sir.
I want to reinforce what Jed just said. I have several questions on this item. We have two different locations proposed with the fence, so I don't know which one I'm supposed to review. Is it the one that's outside of the easement, or is it the one that's inside the easement? If it's the one inside the easement, there are several concerns there with already existing utilities there. I don't know where this lands in relation to stormwater management feature there, which is an infiltration trench. There's no dimension on this plan. And if it's not that one I'm looking at, the other one is right into the passing lane for the vehicles going through the drive-through. So I agree, there are way too many concerns and questions to make a decision tonight on allowing this to move forward.
Thanks, Max.
I have to agree. Too many questions, not enough answers.
Yep.
I agree, and I also have a concern about the what the fence is made of. I'd like to see it made of something that's more consistent with what we usually require.
On the type of fencing, Jim, do you just want to share at least the explanation from I don't know if it was the developer, if it was Mr. Scheineman, one of them had said that they picked that type because that's what the restrictions of Dairy Queen were, right?
I believe that was part of the request, what corporate had for Dairy Queen, what they were willing to allow or work with.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they constricted by that?
That's what we were told, that
Yep.
that's what corporate was restricting them to.
Okay. So use this type of fencing or don't do it at all?
I believe that was what was being represented.
Okay.
I bet we could find Dairy Queens in other communities that do not have chain link fences. So that's my wondering. I'm wondering if we could.
I get it. And I do want to be courteous. We do have at least one of the residents that lives right there. He did ask to say something. So if you'd like to come on up, state your name and address for us and let us know what's on your mind.
Kelby Stewart, 1050 Lincoln Drive, West. As I said, I understand, why you guys have more questions than answers, but as a resident that has to have people stare at me, who's had my wife catcalled during construction, who has two little kids that I want to protect, and now I have to stare at people staring at me every single night, all the time. I urge you guys get all your questions answered. I understand, but I urge you guys to really think about how it's impacting my family, how my neighbors are getting impacted. We lost all of our privacy. I understand that it was a school before, but the traffic compared to then to what it is now is, substantially more. And so I really urge you to just let you know that we lost the use of my backyard. All of us did. And I really want to see something put up of any sorts, even if it's shrubs, trees, I don't care. I just want privacy back. That's all. Please. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelby.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's suggesting that we don't do this. We just there's just more questions. Yeah, I've been involved with the city now for 4 years, and it seems like you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like we prioritize residents for sure. So we'll figure something out.
Is there a way that we can take action on approving the concept and
Like
having
blessing the city staff to move forward?
right? Like Max said, I didn't know where they were going to put the fence.
Yep.
But to me, that's all. Work it out. Get the submittal with an actual certified survey that shows what the conflicts potentially would be, exact location, and then. To me, I don't think Plan Commission's gonna really affect any direction one way or the other than the concept of, are we good with the fence, or are we good with the chain link? I'm personally okay with the chain link, with the slats, with the fabric. It's not awful.
And that was the hang up, Jim. It was just the type of fencing, because otherwise, if it was within our normal parameters, you guys could have just approved that in-house and it would have came before us anyway. Right?
Correct. Typically, if it would have been a solid fence or a panel fence or something, we've typically seen and had approved. We would have typically done it in-house. But with this type of material, with the chain link and the slats and everything, staff does have concerns with, durability and maintenance and all that for it.
We would have still required the site plan be submitted to us.
Okay.
So that we could see that it would be effective, because depending on where there's a 3 to 5 foot elevation change between the residential lots and this site. So where you put it on that slope goes to the effectiveness of the fence height. There's also potential conflicts with a storm sewer and a sanitary sewer that run along that slope. And there's the conflicts with the landscape screening that the Plan Commission did require. So we would still ask for a site plan to be approved, but you are correct. We would have administratively approved it if the fence material that was proposed was consistent with our urban design standards. Technically, only the Plan Commission would have the authority to grant that exception for the design materials. That's why it was brought to you.
Is there any way that maintenance can be built into the approval?
One of the concerns, the reason why chain link fences with slats were not considered acceptable when the urban design standards were built is because of their longevity and appearance seriously affected by wind, by snow being thrown against them, by garbage being blown against them, and the rest. They don't look real attractive over time, which is why they were omitted from the urban design standards. So if you're granting an exception, I believe you would have the authority to make that the maintenance of it be part of that exception.
With the caveat, it'll be taken down if it's not maintained.
Again, it gets to be an issue on enforcement. I don't believe, as Jim said, we're all in favor of providing the additional screening, and we do want it to be effective for the neighbors. If you put a 4 foot high or 6 foot high fence halfway down that slope behind another fence, you don't get the full effect of the screening of that fence. You have to know where it is. So if we get something that shows it in a reasonable location, we'll
What about
bring that
the
back to
tree
you.
suggestion? Has that been?
There are landscape screenings that were required by the Plan Commission, planted along there. They're just not, they literally have not had a growing season yet.
Okay.
So.
I think this young lady wants to say something.
Come on up. Please state your name, address. Let us know what's on your mind.
Okay, Kate Barrett. I do not live behind the Dairy Queen, but my parents, who are elderly, do. And they both have had horrible health things this year and are unable to fight for themselves, so you get me now. It has been pure torture dealing with this. I'm being very honest with you. I started calling in June and July. I sent my first email on this back in August. It has been a nightmare dealing with this, with that being in their backyard. I recognize that it's zone business. We don't have a problem with it being a business. Yes, it is the only drive-through backed up onto single-family properties. That one I've thrown out there too. And I know there's nothing that can change that, but when they put in the landscaping, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It was a joke. These trees were about yay high, and they didn't even come up to the top of my parents' fence. They provided nothing. They were 6 to 8 feet apart. I mean, we were open. Unfortunately, I'm there doing all the yard work and things that have been said to me. It's just, there is no privacy. There are people looking at you. There are people saying things to you. And they have lost their ability to sit in their backyard. I've put this in emails. They were disrespected when they brought their, and if you want to see the emails, I am perfectly fine sharing them all with you. And I put this in my initial email to the mayor, and he's aware of it. They were disrespected. They were thrown away because of their age, I think, and they came to me for help because they can't fight for themselves, and that's why I stepped in. I do not want any part of this, but it's my parents, and it's their home. And because of their health, the only thing they could do this summer was sit in their backyard, and they couldn't even have that because they were stared at. So this is just such an awful situation they've been put through. And when Kevin said he would put up the fence, we don't care, and I know Kelby said this as well, we don't care that it's a chain link fence as long as those privacy slats are through. That's what they're looking at now, because that's what my parents have. If you go behind the Dairy Queen, my parents have a old, oh my God, it's like 70-year-old fence. That's chain linked with all the slats, which is actually in really good shape yet. So they do last if you take care of them. So that is not an issue for us. It may be an issue for you, but I'm telling you, we are so desperate for something back there so they don't have to live with that. If I'm over there making dinner or doing dishes, there's headlights in my face. I mean, that is how bad it is for their house. So we have tried desperately, and I know the mayor, you've heard us. I know we've been frustrated, and you've heard us say things and been trying to be on our side, but this has been just, I cannot even describe how awful this has been. So if you can pass something so Kevin can get that fence up. And I have the emails where he explains that Dairy Queen corporate, they will only allow certain fencing, and he has tried. I can't say I followed up on that, but I don't think that's something he would lie about. I mean, it sounds like he did make a good faith effort because he doesn't have to do this. The fencing, I know they've tossed about the trees. The fencing not only will help provide the blockage of the headlights coming into their home, but I find it gives a little more security. Because I mean, I'm even back there's people like right above me, sitting in their cars. So I am imploring you, this has been such a nightmare. This has been so many months of us trying, and we're like right at the finish line, and we need somebody to help us get it better, because it's just been a nightmare for my parents, and if I can give them something that it's gonna go forward, I would just really appreciate it. So I implore you to help us out tonight because it's been a long haul. So thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Yes, sir.
Excuse my ignorance about putting fences in. Would they be doing it in the wintertime?
Yeah, they can do it in the wintertime.
They can? Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I believe they had an initial installation date. I think 2 of them already scheduled until we told them that, it had to come here. So. Any other thoughts? I'm going to make a creative motion.
I'll make a
I
motion.
have one more.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep, go.
Sorry.
I understand the urgency and I understand the time spent without privacy and everything. But when I look at this plan, I'm sorry, but I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm reviewing. I don't know which alignment the fence is going to be there. I feel like if we approve something tonight, they will feel like they can go and build whatever they want. Sorry to say that I experienced that before when a plan commission approves things with minor technical details to be worked out, and they never get worked out because they go in and they build whatever they want, and we don't have a say in the matter down the line. So the commission can approve that. I will be voting against.
I thought we could approve the concept of the exception of the chain link fence, and you would handle it just like if it was a wood fence or any other type of approved fence on the staff level with the site plan. Isn't that correct? All I was saying is I would make a motion to
I understand
accept
that. I understand that. But the questions that we asked in the memo and that I asked earlier, where is that fence going exactly? We have 2 drawings, and I don't know which one I'm looking at.
Right.
And where are the dimensions on there? And is it going to affect the stormwater management feature that we approved for them to resolve their stormwater when they developed this plan? So, and what I'm saying is that what we've seen happening is they get the plan commission approval and they think that's it, and then they go and they build it. And we don't get any answers to the questions we've been asking. And that's my concern with this. If I vote yes here, I don't know what I'm voting yes to, and I don't know what's going to happen in the field.
My thought is just voting to accept the alternate type of fence, and then the process of any other approved fencing would come into play where the staff would get the site plan that shows the exact location, that shows any obstructions, and it would get worked out outside of plan commission just so that they can expedite the process and maybe save a couple weeks. That's all
I understand what you're saying. All I'm telling you is that in the past, that process has been short-circuited by developers. That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna, here's back to my, I know I've gotten in trouble already with this, but I think Kevin and an engineering firm, again, should sit down with Max and Jim this week or next week. I know you're all busy. Figure out this site plan. I don't think it's that hard. I really, if you're comfortable, but he needs to engineer there, right? Or somebody to draw something up and said, here's my plan.
We don't need a meeting. We don't need another meeting.
Well,
I know you
I would
like
have a
organizing
meeting,
meetings, but we don't need another meeting.
Well,
we need a plan.
I know, but
with
I
dimensions.
think if he sits down with you and meets face to face and said, here's my engineer, here's where we're putting in there, even walk over behind Dairy Queen, I think we could get this done within a month. I see what they're saying. If we wait till next month's meeting to bring them back again, right? And it's got to go to council, that's 2 more months, correct? Before we'd even have a chance to put the fence in.
I don't think it has to go to council.
Doesn't need to go to council.
This doesn't
Well, it
go
doesn't
to
need council,
council.
okay.
But it is
Okay.
another-
So we could do it next month if we had another plan.
That was going to be my question. First of all, I applaud you for going to bat for your parents. That's awesome. What is the turnaround if we had to come back with a new site plan that was a little more coherent? What would when could they could break ground immediately after next month's meeting, or?
They have a site plan base. We included that original site plan approved base in your packet. So they have that available to them as well. So it's not an involved site plan. They just needed to get it onto the grading plan so you can see where the grades are, on the utility plan so they can see where the conflicts are, and on the landscaping plan so you can see where the conflicts are.
Okay, so we need a revision.
It's not an involved process to create it. I understand Max's concerns because
I will point out also
your
that
approval.
that site plan base that you're talking about is not the approved site plan. It's the storm sewer is different there than it is on the approved site plan. This base is dated like October 2020. We didn't get the final base, the final plan that was approved that matches the stormwater management plan. So this is all
You are
started.
correct that
So
that is a different
what we
stormwater.
need
It's
is a
part of the
plan
original
that is
approval.
accurate with some dimensions, and we don't need a meeting to get that done. Their engineering firm can draw something, send it in, we can review it. It can be a quick process, but they need to do the work, is what I'm saying.
I'm not trying to put you guys at odds, but Mark, do you share the same concerns Max does to the extent that you would prefer not to approve this tonight? Or because you're also involved in it and you also understand what's going on.
I understand you're putting, if you're specific as to what your approval are for the design exception, for the materials and colors and the rest of it, because it shouldn't be left up, the staff does not have any statutory authority in our code to grant those exceptions.
Okay.
On the thing. And unless you're telling me what the colors, the materials, and the slats, we do not know if this is plastic slats or aluminum slats. We do not know the type or quality of the slats. They didn't even give us a spec sheet on the fencing. So
that is problematic.
Right now, we haven't gotten a submittal. And the reason we gave you exactly what we had here, including the history of the 3 different submittals, we have 1 sketch and 2 plans that show different locations.
Okay.
So we had no way to resolve this, short of pushing it off this agenda and pushing it onto the February agenda anyway.
Okay.
I did not want to do that to the applicant.
Sure. So can we somehow put together a very, very specific? Or is that
You're the plan commission. You decide on what that exception is. What is acceptable to you? Again, some very good points were made. There is an existing chain link fence adjacent to this property on the thing. But on the flip side, do you want the staff to be making the determination that, okay, there's not a good location because of a conflict, but for a potential for the sanitary main that's in there or the landscaping, and that pushes it down slope and drives the cost of the fence higher because they're going to have to go with a taller fence to get over the other fence to add screening. Is that appropriate for staff to be making that determination? I have no problem to making a recommendation on the thing, but it's really the plan commission's call.
I don't have all the emails to pull up, but I know there was some back and forth with A to Z, and I know that Mr. Scheineman, I mean, he even asked me, is there anything else that I need before tonight's meeting? So was that communicated to either him or A to Z that, hey, we need more information?
We sent an original email where I outlined not what the code requirements are, but why the code requires those changes and what potential conflicts we were interested in. And again, we don't design plans for people. We review them. Saying it's not city's charge to tell him what. There might be other alternatives for the fencing that he wants to consider. I'm not going to dictate to him the type of fencing that he can propose, other than what the code requirements are.
Is it the material and fencing that Dairy Queen is apparently requiring and not gonna vary from? That all fits within our code, though. Yes.
I can tell you that there are a lot of parameters for franchisors that are required, but that does not change what the community requirements are.
Sure.
There are a whole number of commercial franchise sites in West Bend that do not have what was required, and that goes all the way up to Walmart and all the way down to what used to be photo huts. Our standards are what our standards are.
Sure.
I'm sorry if I can interrupt because I have a text from Mr. Scheineman who says he's outside of our doors and they're locked. Jay, could you grab it?
I have a question.
Yep.
Your parents there, you said that the headlights shine into their house. Is that from the cars coming into the lot before they make the bend?
The way that Dairy Queen is laid out, I don't have anything to show you, but, okay, like their house is directly behind the Dairy Queen. So when people come up and order, like at the drive-through.
When they're driving.
Whatever that thing is you order at, I'm sorry, I'm blanking, the order thing.
The menu board.
Yeah, the order thing.
The kiosk.
When they order, then they turn to go behind the building to pick up their order. As they come back with their headlights, it shines directly into my parents' three-season porch and kitchen. So it comes right at them. And they do have back there, and Kevin can say this too, he did put up like a God Bless America sign or something, or like a wind banner. And my understanding is that's the height that he wants to put the fence up at, is that height. And I hear you guys talking, but this is something that Kevin is doing because we're asking for it. It's not like he wanted to do this. Let's be honest. It's not like he really wanted to do this. He's doing this as a favor to both my parents and Kelby, and there's a couple others on each side. So we're just trying to help him make it easier.
What I'm getting at is I'm looking at a drawing of the length of the fence. Is that even long enough?
Oh yeah, that covers the back of my parents' property.
Okay.
Hey, you made it.
Hello.
We're in the midst of all this. So Kevin, if you'd like to come up, I know you missed all the conversation.
Yeah.
So maybe you can give a little
apologize.
spiel and.
I thought the meeting was at 7, so it's my fault for being late, and it took me a little bit to let the officer let me in, so. What questions can I answer for you? I apologize.
We'll start with that, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have another thought that I'd like to share. I'm thinking about the homeowners behind the property, and someday they may want to sell their property. The fence that we're putting up will be there for a very long time, no matter what the materials are. There are certain they can take down their own fence, right? But they can never take down the fence that is being put on this property. So in my mind, to lower the standards and put a fence that does not meet our standards really could have some long-term effects for the homeowners as well. And I don't want to do that because we've put them in one bad position, because they feel desperate was, I think, the word, that, we give them a solution that isn't what they deserve. So I still feel very strongly that we should not lower our expectations as far as our standards for this fence. So that's my last on that, but I really do appreciate everything you are doing to try to help these people. So thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to give some background on this. When the initial plan went in, and I'll be honest with you, when the commission passed the Dairy Queen plan, I cannot translate in my mind the amount of fill and the amount of height that the city required until it was all done. It's one thing to look at a map, it's another thing to actually stand in the drive lane in person once the plan was completed. And we followed everything that the city required of us in terms of fill and grade. When it was all said and done, I guess from my position, when I stood there, and the grade is much higher in the drive area than I anticipated from looking at the plans in my mind. And so that's the reason why there's a sight line challenge here with the neighborhood, is that the height of the grade that the city required is much higher than I anticipated. And then also, the landscaping plan was not anywhere close to what I desired in terms of giving an opaque blockage to the neighborhood. So what the attempt here with this potential plan here is to have a chain link fence with the privacy slats similar to the one that's already there and in the neighborhood. And we're looking for 2 feet underneath the fence, so there's going to be a little bit of a snow wedge that piles up against the curb. I'm looking for that snow to go under the fence, not push the fence back. So that's why there's a 2 feet relief on the bottom. The existing fence is basically going to cover that sight line, and then this fence basically is designed, that 4 feet is to block the sight lines for the rest of the neighborhood. So it's basically what I call a neighborhood privacy fence, and it's similar in nature to what's already there in the neighborhood. So, and I'll be frank with you, the materials that are available in terms of getting this done quickly to satisfy all parties involved, this is the quickest, most effective, easiest supply chain part available in terms of getting it done, and the company did approve this. I had to go through quite a bit of hurdles for the corporation to approve this because they want to make sure that the neighbors are also satisfied with what's going on. And they were agreeable to it. Normally, they don't have a fence like this in the plan, but because it's similar to the one that's existing in the neighborhood. So that's where we are today. If I apologize for not getting that background information to you sooner before the discussion started. But if you approve this tonight, my fence person is ready to go tomorrow, from what I understand, weather pending, of course, to get this done. So I'll take any questions or other comments from there, but that's essentially the background, is that I'm just trying to fix what, between all of us, that we didn't really foresee this issue when we were all here last year approving this plan. So I'm just trying to get this fixed. I want peace with the neighborhood. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to continue to be a good neighbor. So that's where we are today. So
to bring you up to speed, Kevin, because I know you weren't here, I think a majority of the commission is in favor of some sort of privacy fence up. There's been questions about the material of the fence. I know you said that, that's been blessed by corporate, but that's the whole reason that it's before the commission today. But even if we modified some sort of motion to approve that, there's still concerns about the site plan itself. I mean, there was talks of, there's 2 different site plans here, and we're not sure where things go, and the stormwater and everything else too. So just wanted to catch you up. Max, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to thank you for doing this effort, because looking at the aerial pictures and looking at the site plan, I can totally see how the vehicles in the drive-through lanes would, shine their lights on the properties in the back. And for sure, we need something there. Mm-hmm. But yes, I did ask the questions because we received 2 different plans showing the fence in 2 different locations. We don't know what distance from the property line or from the building. There's one fence shown in the bypass drive lane. And so my first question was, where exactly will the fence be? And I know you gave some background information to explain the 2 feet below the fence, which we did not have, but that's good. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
I guess the next point would be out of those 2 plans, which one will be the alignment for the fence? Is it the one that's where the fence is going all the way to the north edge of your property? Or is it this other one where the north edge of the fence is actually aligning with the building?
It would be the latter one, and I apologize for you getting that first drawing. That was a miscommunication between myself and my fence vendor. It would be the latter one where it starts where the drive-through menu board is located,
Okay.
and then arriving and ending all the way to the front of the building. The goal is at the front edge of the building, we have what's called a park line for the drive-through, and we have cars that park at that yellow line. The goal is to have the fence go just enough so people at that park line aren't looking over into the neighbor's yard, that the fence would block any sight line there. Once the car gets past the front of the building, basically they all are required to make a left-hand turn, and they're all pointed towards the street at that point. So there's really no sight line issue in front of the building because of the way the traffic flow is going. So it would be the latter plan where the fence is plotted to start by the drive-through menu board behind the building. So I apologize for you getting those 2 plans. That was my fault with the whirlwind, everything that goes on.
That's fine. I'm just happy we could clarify that. So that fence though, and I'm sorry, we're gonna do a little bit of site plan review here. So that fence though is in the drive aisle that is right next to the order line. I will call it the order line, the line where people come to the window.
Yep.
And it looks like that second line is for vehicles coming around the building. Even if somebody is at the window, they can go around them. But with the fence in that lane, it looks like vehicles would not be able to go around. And so that's one question I have, because there are some parking spots near the southeast corner of the property. And if somebody is getting out of that parking spot, they can't leave your site until that line of people paying at the window has cleared. So my question, because there's no dimension there, is the fence far enough from the building to allow 2 cars, the one ordering at the window and the one that wants to bypass them?
Yeah, we're not planning on disturbing any of the existing parking. The fence is designed to go in the landscape just on the east side of the existing curb. So we're not anticipating digging up any curb or existing parking lot. This fence is designed to go in the nearest green space, right on the right. If you're familiar with there's a curb right there. We're planning on sinking the fence post just on the other side of the curb.
So behind the curb?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Because it's drawn like this in the lane, and that's why I was concerned, because I was like, well, there's nowhere a vehicle can go through. But if it's going to be behind the curb,
yes,
then the vehicles will be able to circulate normally.
It does look like it's in that lane, yeah.
So
I apologize for that, and
I understand. I'm
a motorcycle could get through there based on this.
Maybe. But these are the kind of things that we're looking at, and like being behind the curb, I was concerned about, there's that infiltration trench there for the stormwater management purposes, and I wanted to make sure that the fence would not be in that trench, but from what you're saying, it would be between the back of curb and that trench. Is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
I'm starting to feel a little better about this now that I'm getting some information.
Okay.
I'm getting some questions.
Thanks for coming, Kevin.
Very glad you're here.
Could have used you 30 minutes ago.
Well, I apologize for wandering in the parking lot for 10 minutes, so.
That's all right.
So can we approve the proposal based on?
You can make whatever creative motion you would like. I think
Commissioner
Schmidt had started one.
Max?
If we could get an updated plan, just that plan that you drew up on the on the Alta survey there, and just clearly showing that the fence is going between the curb and that gravel trench. That would be a great improvement there. I just want to have something so that we can have it in our file so that everybody can refer back to it. Somebody come in 5 years, 10 years down the road, pull up the plan and have the plan showing the correct location is what I want.
And what about materials?
So now the materials, I'm going to let Mark speak about that.
Well, that's really what's up for discussion is the materials. That's the crux of all this.
Based an approval based on an updated site plan and materials that we have to decide we like or not.
Can I make a motion? And
Sure.
then you guys can run with it or
go ahead.
vote it down. I'll make a motion that we approve the suggested material of the black vinyl wrap fence with the black slats with the 2-foot separation to deal with snow. And in the location that you talked about, directly between the curb and the
And the gravel trench.
and the gravel trench, with the condition that you provide a new site plan that shows that as the installation location. And the only other thing I'd put on it is that just double check that the height of the proposed fence does what it's intended to do, that it's tall enough. I'm not sure if 6 foot is the right number. I'm assuming you already know that, but just that the height is.
Yeah, I'll second that. What material are the slats? Is that
Justin,
aluminum or
you have that information? Just a second.
what material do we want?
Just so you know, that's the resident, not
I'm
A to
sorry.
Z.
I thought you were. I haven't.
He
read
might
that.
have it.
I thought.
I thought that was interesting
thought he
that
was
your
my
fence
friend's-
guy is actually the
I know he's my
one of
friend's
the
guy.
neighbors.
I haven't firsthand put my finger on it because this is all abstract and ether, but I'm almost sure it's the same material as the existing fence that's there. It's sort of a hard.
What is that?
It's kind of like metal.
Ours is our aluminum.
It's aluminum?
Yeah. So it's because I told my fence guy, I said, hey, I want this thing to look exactly like that fence, only black. And so it would be that aluminum, slatted material, because I wanted to keep the design consistent with what's there.
Sure. Well, and you said that that's lasted.
Yeah, I think my grandfather built that was in 1950.
Okay.
That fence has been there.
We all know they don't make things like they used to, right?
That is true. How do you feel about that, Mark?
I don't know, Kelby's is about the same age.
Yeah. I checked the aerial photos. That fencing was built sometime between the mid '50s when the subdivision was platted and when the houses or when the last photo that first photo that actually showed it was 1963. So it's probably 60s era fencing.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons we also wanted to do was the long-term durability. We want this thing to last for 30 years, maybe 40. So.
And do we have? I'm sorry, Bernie. Do we have? Is there any recourse we get this whole thing up after this is supposing this is approved? This gets up and it just looks terrible. There's no recourse on the city's part.
If you give them an approval, it's not my judgment call. It's your judgment call. On it. I'm not trying to dish it out. It's just that he has the right to depend upon your approval.
Yeah.
And we don't give.
Okay.
We'll try it and we'll see if we like it. That's not the way code works.
Right. Gotcha.
So.
I'll second.
I just have one more question. So the posts, do you know how far apart they are? Is it every 6 feet, every 5 feet?
The 6 feet standard is what I was assuming it was going to be. If you require, something less, like every 4 feet, we can do that.
No, I'm not requiring anything. I'm just curious about the spacing of the posts.
Okay.
So
not a problem. We
6
can adjust
feet?
that. It's not a problem. So.
Yeah,
All right,
okay.
I'm going to go to my right here, Commissioner Newman, and then Dolick.
It's so close to snow plowing and that if there is damage, you're going to maintain it regularly, right?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
It's so close to the snow plows and that and cars. If there is damage to it, you plan to routinely maintain the fence, right?
Oh, absolutely, and if it makes you feel better, yours truly is the snowplow driver. So if there's any issues on that, it's on me. The goal with having the 2 feet relief underneath is that, we're not planning on pushing snow in that direction, but as you go down the drive lane, there's always going to be that one wedge, that comes off the plow, and, it'll probably be knee high. So the goal is the snow just sneak under the fence with that little bit of wedge. In terms of the large piling, we are not planning on piling any snow that way at all. So both for this fence and the neighborhood fence, I have no desire to pile snow on the neighborhood fence either, so.
Yeah. Thanks.
Just to clarify something, Max said that they can't put this up without a building permit, right?
They get a zoning permit for a fence. That's what they actually made application for when they came in, and that's when my staff advised them that they needed a site plan approval.
If I put a fence up, I can't put it up until I have to show that it's going to be respecting the setback.
That's true for residential fences because we don't do site plan approvals on single and two-family residential lots. And we have a standard that requires a 6-inch setback to within your property. There is no similar setback for commercial. It's totally dependent upon your site plan approval.
I guess what I'm getting at is, and maybe I'm wording this wrong about the building permit. Max's concern was that they could put it up as soon as we voted on this tonight, before you guys got a proper site plan to approve. That would be illegal, correct?
That is correct. They would need their site plan, their fence, their zoning permit for their fence to be approved by the inspection staff.
Okay.
And they won't improve that until we have the conditions of your approval tonight.
Okay, that's good.
Which I'm sure the past village president would not do that, right? You never do anything illegal.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm actually on Jed's side here. I mean, you talked about tomorrow you'd have your guys put it in. I don't believe they can do that tomorrow, right? If we okay it tonight on what we just motioned, I believe they have to bring a site plan to Max yet, right? And I think, would you like to see if that's aluminum or vinyl, the material, the slats? At least your guy must have example of it, right? To show, to make sure. It's just hard to say, put in whatever you want. We think it's aluminum, but I'm not sure. I think we should see, or somebody in the city should see that, right?
Yeah, I can get clarification on that tomorrow when I talk to my vendor.
Okay.
For sure, I got to make a phone call to push him off because he's got his people slotted in tomorrow. Now, I don't know whether he was going tomorrow.
Very good.
But I will double check to see if it's vinyl or aluminum. I apologize that I didn't get that detail on it. I just was more concerned about the site blockage. I wasn't too worried about the slat materials, but I'm pretty sure it's either vinyl or aluminum.
But from staff's perspective, I mean, the only reason that they're going to even need to know about the materials is to match whatever we approve tonight. So if we're saying that we're okay with both aluminum and vinyl, then you need to make that part of the motion so that the staff knows that. Otherwise, if it's just aluminum, it's just aluminum, you know?
If I modify my motion, personally, I don't have a preference, vinyl over aluminum. I would have just assumed it's vinyl because that's what I've seen done more. But black vinyl or aluminum, approved site plan, showing the fence in the correct location, and making sure that the height is sufficient, in which you guys have obviously done, but I just want that in there.
Yeah.
Not that the neighbors can come back and be like, well, yeah, there's a fence, but it's 2 feet too low.
I'll stick with my second because, I mean, really, Kevin, it sounds like you're just trying to do the right thing, and if there's something that the city's going to require of you, you're going to do it, and whatever. So.
And as soon as I have my information tomorrow, I'll come into the city planning department and get the site plan ironed out, and if necessary, we'll walk over there with a can of spray paint to plant it on the ground to make sure the site plan matches. So.
All right.
Like it.
Any other thoughts or comments? Do you have that motion?
I have a motion, but there's been a couple of different representations. Kevin, you represented that you wanted the same fencing material that was on the residential fences. That's what some of the people were talking about. You then altered your motion to include plastic slats, which are not consistent with that. So I need to know what you're going, if it's aluminum or both, make it clear to make sure that that's what you're understanding here. And then Kevin, what we need after that would be a corrected site plan showing both the extent and the location of that fencing specifically on the site plan, and your spec sheets or your cut sheets for the material for the fence. So we know what's been approved, okay?
Okay.
Got it.
I'm just interested that it's black, that it's either aluminum or vinyl. I doubt the fence that you're trying to match is vinyl coated.
I'm not trying to change it, but black plastic that isn't, there are cheap ones, there are expensive ones. Black plastic that's not UV fast doesn't look like a black plastic very long. It looks mottled gray after a couple of years in the sun.
If this other fence is aluminum, I personally would prefer to see aluminum.
Again, I'm not trying to drive up your costs, it's just we don't know what this is, what's being proposed and what grade it is and all the rest of that. So there's tell me it's black slats, either aluminum or plastic, there's probably 20 different varieties of that stuff out there, and it ranges from junk to very nice fencing.
Yep.
So.
I did give the instruction that I wanted this to be very nice fencing, but I don't have the specific on the question, unfortunately.
Okay, so what's the material?
I'm personally okay with black vinyl or black aluminum. So I'll keep that as my motion, and I guess Kevin, if you could bring a sample of the slat material that when you bring the site plan.
Okay.
That'd be appreciated. And then I would say at that point, staff could, if there's a concern, they can email us, and I'd be happy to come down here and look at it and give my opinion. But I just want to.
Is that too vague for you, Mark?
Well, again, you're making us do the decision on an exception on the thing. If you're okay with plastic, and that's your motion, plastic or aluminum, and he can pick what he thinks is going to be appropriate for his site, that's what we will accept from him as a submittal, if that's what the commission wants. If you want it to be metal, then I would ask you to direct it to be metal. It's really not staff's place to make that judgment call on a design material.
I mean, Kevin, you even stated that you thought it was aluminum. So are you comfortable if we just make that the motion?
Yeah, and if my vendor doesn't have it in, the only drawback is that we may have to wait for aluminum. So that would be the worst case scenario in terms of what we're talking about here. So if it's something other than aluminum, we can put that on order, and we'll just have to wait for that material. So if that's the requirement, that's the requirement. I'm not going to. But I also, as the village president and shared building, I have complete faith in the staff of the city of West Bend to make the decision also. So.
Me too. Okay. All right. Any other changes?
I'll amend it. Just aluminum. Done.
Okay, I was going to. Yeah. Okay. And again, a second. So.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Just real quick. And your corporate office, your corporate people probably require you to maintain this anyway, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So so you're also under their thumb to make sure it doesn't deteriorate and look like something terrible.
We have a facility inspection every 6 months, and trust me, it is very thorough. So.
All right. Any other thoughts? Then I will call for a vote. All those in favor of that messy motion, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Duly noted.
Thank you.
And this passes. And having no further business for the Plan Commission, I adjourn by the call of the chair. Have a good night.
Thank you.